But you do know, I mean, again, education is another area where many Nigerians believe that government should provide free services. As we do know, we know that the primary education is supposed to be free.
Yes.
And in many states it is free.
Yes.
The secondary education has been heavily subsidized, if it's not totally free, in many states. And the tertiary, as we do know as well, is also heavily subsidized, which some people say government cannot sustain over the years, cannot continue to sustain, at least not at this level of subsidy. How do you think government begins to, is it send this message home, or ensure that, you know, people's capacity to pay for this, you know, services are also improved?
I disagree with you slightly in the opinion you hold about Nigerians wanting everything for free. That mindset...
Oh, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm simply saying that that's how it is as it stands.
Okay, I agree with you on that. That's how it is as it stands, but you see the potential for Nigerians to pay for services is beginning to show in the number of private schools you see. Even my driver takes all his children to private schools, and I wonder, now, if at that level, he's not a graduate, but he wants his children to excel. I never went to a private school all my life. I went to a public primary school. What government needs to do is understand how it has worked before. Like, I think it was Newton that said it, that we need to understand where we're coming from, or was it you? Yeah, so we can make progress going forward. How did it work? How did people like us come out? I was in a public primary school. They call them LEA schools. In the north, I grew up in the north. LEA means Local Education Authority. We sat in classes, we listened and took instruction from teachers. We came out, and in the way we have found society, we've tried to excel. Now, I never went to a private school, but these days, majority of the people that go out there to school in the mornings, just watch out, majority of them go to private schools. So it means the capacity is there if government gets it right. But more importantly, for the few who still stick to wanting things for free, government needs to get the template right, which is part of what we're supplying. These things have worked in other climes. It can work here as well. Focus on your wage bill. With this mega federal allocation coming, focus on your wage bill. Let's look at how this paradigm has worked in other climes, and let's contextualize it in your state. For those who are interested, they get it. And in the process, governments can succeed, look people in the face after 4 years and say, hey, in spite of the difficult situation, we're able to do it. The next I was going to mention is agriculture. Agriculture is critical because with the way oil and gas the world over is going, we need to wake up as a country, because the electric-powered vehicles, before now you have hybrid vehicles which will partly electric powered, and then it can be fuel powered the way we know it. But we're beginning to have vehicles that are completely electric powered. In the next 5 to 10 years, we begin to see those vehicles come here. What it's telling us is that the oil over time will become obsolete as far as vehicles are concerned, and we'll need more power to get our vehicles on the road. Well, that's a power sector thing. But I'm only saying that agriculture appears the immediate substitute, as we speak, for oil. And except we begin to grow that sector properly.
And that looks available for all states.
Absolutely available. There's no state in Nigeria that doesn't have one cash crop or crop for consumption or the other. There's no state that will say, I have nothing. All across the nation, without even tilling the ground in a serious way. Our land so fertile. So we need to do something about it. And there's a huge value chain within the agricultural sector. From the farm to the fork, as they say. In other words, from the farm to your table, huge value chain. So, and being in agriculture does not mean you're a farmer. There are lots of amazing, smart people that get involved. Up until IT get involved in agriculture. There are lots of things. Telecoms involved in agriculture. Banking involved in agriculture. So many sectors being brought together. At the end of the day, we need to grow that. In the States, a huge IGR turnaround. IGR turnaround can happen like a revolution in agriculture. Again, what works in Niger State may fail woefully in Anambra State. And so we need to understand each state, look at their nuances, understand the legal framework and the culture of the people, and deliver to them, as it were, in agriculture. Lastly, youth development is a concern. All over the world, every country that hopes to succeed gives a lot of attention to its youth population. Interestingly, in Nigeria, those youth are more than those who are older than them. 65% of our population is said to be youth, in the youthful segment of our demographics. And so we must give attention to them. Otherwise, there's an emergency on our hands. And if you have over 20 million youths, I'm not talking of graduates, youths unemployed, then there'll be restiveness. There's no way this can be properly shared. Unfortunately, in the next 4 years, there'll be many more coming out of the universities, joining the unemployed ones. So it can only get compounded, except we start doing something. And at the state levels, ideas on what to do can come up. And we have other development partners that have teamed up with us, tested concepts all around the world.
So what can be done in the youth empowerment? Let's see if we can tie it back to education, because there are those who say, if we do not work on our curriculum, then they'll still come out unemployed.
Absolutely. The curriculum, as we have it in many of the schools, are obsolete. Obsolescence has caught up with lots of them. I'm an architect by training. I go back to my department and wonder, because at the time I came out, the understanding we had is I go out there and things begin to happen. Once you just see an architect, everybody bows. I mean, figuratively. And we got a massive culture shock. Lots of my colleagues, don't let me go there. Now,
please do go there.
Now, with the capacity we received, well, we had high hopes, and society appeared willing to take on the architect. That was our understanding at the time. But when we came out, we realized that we were short in capacity. So I had to go back to school. I had a master's in architecture, but it was completely inadequate to operate in the business space in Nigeria. So I had to go back. Now, for those who can't go back to school, of course, they were so challenged, they got into other things. But more importantly, Nigeria needs this kind of service because our housing deficit is so huge, it's abominable. But coming back to what you're saying, with agriculture, by the time we hone it properly, it's a massive employer of labor, and so we can tie up the youth development element with agriculture. Another sector that's so huge in employing people like that is construction, but that's a topic for another day. So there's agriculture, there's youth development, there's healthcare, and there's education. If we focus on those 4 sectors, using the proper concepts, proven concepts around the world in over 50 countries, the state governments, in spite of the dwindling resources from the federal allocation, can still get to do something. The electorate will benefit. They themselves will beat their chest and say, I did this, I did this, I did that, while the nation would have moved forward. Otherwise, if we sit back and watch the way things are, there's no replacement here for crude oil, and the prices are predicted to fall even to $20 per barrel. It's terrible. It can only get worse. Deficit budget after deficit budget. The government has just said yesterday in the papers that they borrowed 886 billion naira to fund this economy, almost $1 trillion so far.
I really do hope that they're listening. It's something that we all must talk about, knowing that Nigeria is one of the emerging markets, and talking about the mint, well, we do hope that we won't sit idly by and expect it to be activated by itself. Femi Afolabi, President, African Emerging Markets Network, many thanks for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much.
We'll stay on this particular matter because the bailout issue and the economies of states is quite an interesting one, to the extent that we all must talk until we get ourselves out of this problem.
Absolutely.
Once again, thanks for coming on. Sorry.
Thank you very much for having me.